Our survey of supply managers for the month of November, the leading economic indicator from that survey was up for the second time since May, and it's above growth neutral for the 12th consecutive month. So it was a good survey. Things are looking good. We're crawling out of this recession, and I think we're going to see some better growth numbers in the months ahead. I'm looking forward to Q1 of 2011 being a pretty good number. Now, of course, we're still not seeing enough jobs being added to make anybody feel good. In fact, the unemployment rate is very likely to remain much too high for anybody to feel comfortable. But all in all, it was a good report. The employment index was up for the month, and it's above growth neutral for the 11th straight month. And of course, that's real good. We're talking about our 9-state region stretching from North Dakota and Minnesota to the north to Oklahoma and Arkansas in the south. In those states, agriculture and energy typically are very important, and we're seeing that play out in companies that have close ties, linkages to those two sectors. And of course, that all is hinging on a weak dollar. A weak dollar is very good for agricultural commodity prices. It makes U.S. Goods cheaper abroad. That's particularly important for agriculture. Likewise, it pushes up and aids energy commodity prices, which of course for a state like Oklahoma, a state like North Dakota, two of the states in the region, though that's very good for those two states. I expect that to continue, although there's some real warning signs out there, of course, what's going on in Europe. Now, if we see the economic contagion that we're now seeing in, for example, the debt issues in Portugal, Italy, Ireland, and if it moves over to Spain and then on to on to Germany and on to France, that's going to be a real problem. What that would do, in my judgment, is weaken the euro, strengthen the dollar. Strengthening the dollar would hurt agricultural commodity prices, pull them down. It would also pull down energy commodity prices, and that, of course, would not be good for this part of the country. So one important feature going forward to really keep an eye on is what happens in Europe and whether that economic meltdown, or at least the problems with some of the bonds, the sovereign debt bonds, whether that continues. Boy, that's certainly, unfortunately, for in most economic expansions, or when things begin to improve, prices begin to turn upward. And we're seeing that in our survey. The inflation gauge was well into what I consider to be an inflationary environment. Now, it's still not like the 1980s. I'm not expecting that type of inflation, but I am expecting inflation to be well above what the Federal Reserve is their target rate, which is 2%. I'm in the 3 to 4% range by the middle to the latter part of 2011. This month we asked the supply managers, over the past 3 months, or no, I'm sorry, looking ahead the next 6 months, how much do you expect prices to increase by? The average was about 6.6% on an annualized basis. That is going to spill over into the consumer prices and going to push up prices well above what the Federal Reserve would like to see. And in my judgment, it's going to force or push the Federal Reserve, to raise interest rates as early, in my judgment, short-term interest rates, as early as the middle of 2011. Of course, that's not good, and a lot of folks out there are betting on Fed keeping rates low. I think short-term rates could begin rising by the middle to the latter part of 2011. Long-term rates could begin increasing even in January or February of 2011. Well, confidence was very strong. I mean, this is somewhat unusual. We're talking about an unemployment rate, national unemployment rates, that are between 9 and 10%, 9.6% for the month of October. You'd expect that to play out in terms of lower confidence. But what we're seeing in our survey is the companies that we survey, they see their own new orders growing. They see that as healthy. They see an economic environment that looks good for their own company, and that's what they're reporting on. So things look good for their own companies. Now, what we're seeing companies doing right now is the hiring they are doing is a lot of temporary workers, and also they're adding to the hours worked for their current workforce, and likewise asking their current employees to increase their production at the same time that they're not increasing the number of workers. So that adds to productivity growth, increasing output, and not really adding to the number of jobs. So unfortunately, while this expansion is going to continue, at least according to our survey and the national surveys, I'm reasonably confident this expansion is going to continue into 2011. It's not going to create enough jobs to bring the unemployment rate down. The unemployment rates among the states that we survey are going to remain much higher than what we saw before the recession began in December 2007. We're going to see unemployment rates well above that. Still not comfortable enough for anybody out there, but again, it is an expansion, it is growth, and we are seeing it.